Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. I am Tan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. Got a great show for you today. The Dean, Bill Kurelic and Mark Porter, the Grand Poobah, will be here. We'll get all deep down in recruiting. Yesterday's show was Steve Hellwagon, heavy on combine and team basketball stuff. So today we will shift back to our wheelhouse in recruiting. But first, a note from our sponsor, Joy Mode. I think I speak for most men when I say we want to have better sex, and for the sake of our partner, we may need to have better sex. The issue is that over-the-counter pills contain unregulated chemicals, suggest unsafe doses, and include the risk of several other health problems. That's why we partner with our friends at Joy Mode. Whether you're looking to spice up your intimate moments or increase your confidence in the bedroom, Joy Mode makes all natural and science-backed supplements dedicated to helping men perform better across their core functions. They're a trademark product. The Sexual Performance Booster is every man's solution for increased blood flow, stamina, and performance. It's like a pre-workout, but for sex. All ingredients have been assessed in peer-reviewed journals. All ingredients have been studied and researched in humans. It comes in a palm-sized packet like your favorite electrolyte powder. Simply mix with 6 to 8 ounces of water 45 minutes before sexual activity and watch the magic unfold, literally. Redefine your intimacy and go to joymode.com for 20% off with code BUCKNUTS. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code BUCKNUTS at joymode.com. Ingredients with integrity. That's Joymode. And speaking of integrity, the Dean, Bill Kurelic, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter, are here. Gentlemen, I want to start on a very positive topic. Now that the offseason dust has settled, Bill, I think we all feel like Tavien Sinclair is locked into his commitment at Ohio State. I think maybe there's a little nerves when all the quarterbacks were coming in and new coaches were hired, etc. But now we seem to be in the groove. He recently kicked butt at a national event. What is his plan for the summer? When will we get a chance to see him? And maybe just kind of an update on a guy who I think we all agree is the future of this program.
Well, everything is great with Tavien Sinclair. In fact, I talked to his dad just the other day again. And as he put it, with spring practices starting the week of March 4th, they'll practice on Tuesday, Thursday that week, March 5th and 7th. With those practices starting, he said to expect Tavien and him and family and all to get down to Ohio State early and often. And that's a good thing, early and often. They're going to be around the program a lot. He's ready to go. He's excited about Chip Kelly being the new offensive coordinator. He's, as most Buckeye fans are, he's excited about what has happened with the program and the last month plus whatever. So he's going to be at those practices a lot, learning as much as he possibly can, spending time with Chip Kelly, of course, Ryan Day and all that, and ready to go. That'll lead into the spring period where they have 7-on-7s and all that. Bell Fountain will be taking part in a few of those, so he'll be at those, and so will Mark and I, for that matter. We'll be out on the road watching Tavien and all the other Ohio State-related guys, and in Mark's case, a whole lot of other guys as well. And then you'll go move into the summer when you've got all the official visits going and all that. So it'll be a busy time for Tavien and Ohio State, and Mark and I, for that matter.
Mark, in terms of recruiting rating and I think anticipation, I can't think that the last Ohio quarterback to come to Ohio State like this, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, would probably be Braxton Miller.
Cardell Jones, same class.
Same class. I think Braxton had a little more fanfare at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you put Sinclair heading into his senior year in context with like the last decade?
I think I said this before. It's funny. We just talked about Braxton and Cardell. He's almost a hybrid of them. Okay. He's got the size of Cardell and the howitzer, the arm strength of Cardell. But he doesn't quite run as fast as Braxton, but he runs pretty good.
Yeah.
So, if you kind of middled those guys out, you kind of have Tavien Sinclair right in the middle. some of the better qualities of each. Yeah, we wish he had Braxton's 4.4 speed, but Bill Wright, he's pretty fast, and he gets out and starts running, and he becomes a problem in a hurry. So that's why I say, and I don't know if those are the greatest two guys to kind of say he's right in the middle of, but just because we mentioned them, but the size that, he's 6'4", he looks like he's even going to get bigger. He's got that stature where he's, really almost looks like a linebacker at quarterback. And that's really what you want is a big, strong kid, because he's going to take shots and, you need him to survive. But he ranks up there. I mean, as far as Ohio, there hasn't been that many great quarterbacks come out of Ohio. As they went to other places, I think Connor Cooks went to Michigan. We could go back, and if you want to,
Drew Aller was super highly rated last year.
Yeah,
years ago.
There are guys, but this is, I think Sinclair is definitely better than Aller. He brings a little more to the table, athletically. So I think you can, edge him out. But really, Ohio hasn't given us a bunch of Power 5 quarterbacks in the last 10, 12 years. It's a tough position to be the king of the mountain.
Definitely. Ethan Grunkenmeyer this year will go to Penn State, and Drew Aller, he'll join Drew Aller there. And Drew Aller was super highly rated. I think it's fair to say that he has not been at Penn State what we expected. He's got a couple more years there, so we will see. Another interesting factor here, Bill, is they've added 2 guys to the staff. Let me tweak that. They've added 1 guy and promoted another in Chip Kelly and James Laurinaitis. Those are pretty well-known names when it comes to adding guys to your staff. Chip Kelly has been, an offensive guru, as it were, for about the last 10 to 15 years. And James Laurinaitis, pretty sure he won the Bucknuts Award here and was a tremendous pro, and has come back and has gotten the promotion now to kind of be the recruiter we thought he could be, or in the position to do that. Who are the guys Chip Kelly and James Laurinaitis are kind of dialed in on right now? Because the first question everybody has when you join Ohio State staff is, how well can you recruit on the national stage?
Well, Chip Kelly, of course, Ohio State has 1 quarterback commitment, that being previously mentioned Tavien Sinclair. So Chip Kelly's recruiting him. Ohio State recruits these guys all the way through the process. I don't care how solid, how locked in they are, they're going to continue to recruit those guys. And Chip Kelly has already spoken. He spoke very quickly after he got the job. No surprise there. He spoke with Tavien Sinclair. That conversation went very well. And Tavien, as I mentioned, is excited about being a Buckeye and having Chip Kelly there to work with. So Chip Kelly's recruiting Tavien Sinclair for the 2025 class. I don't expect them to sign 2 2025 quarterbacks. Tavien will be the guy. So that means Chip Kelly can go on, and that's a great thing, work on 2026 quarterback recruiting. And he is doing that. He made his first scholarship offer as an Ohio State coach to a young man from California, Brady Smidgel. And that's a kid that he has a great relationship with, because he was recruiting him. As I said, Smidgel is a California kid. He's recruiting him when he was at UCLA. They have a very good relationship. The family likes Chip Kelly a lot. I think Ohio State, as far as Brady goes, and I've talked to him, I think Ohio State is one of his top, in my opinion, top 2 or 3, maybe 4 choices at this point. Brady is going to make a visit to Ohio State sometime this spring. They're kind of working on the date. He's going to work with Ryan Day and Chip Kelly to get that date, but he's certainly one. Jared Curtis, the previously offered, long-time offer, as far as 2026 goes, he's another one. And then Will Griffin is the other quarterback that they've offered. He is out of Tampa, Florida, and he's pretty excited. He called I put an article on our site this morning, as a matter of fact, where Will Griffin calls Chip Kelly an offensive genius. And Will Griffin is looking forward to getting back to Ohio State. He's been to Ohio State before. He's looking forward to getting back there. And those would be the guys right now that Bucknutters should keep in mind name-wise for the 2026 quarterbacks.
We will handle that. We will keep you on top of that, of course. And Mark, would you go get a soda? You get a sandwich or something there, Mark?
Yeah, I'm trying to give you guys a little video of the quarterback Bill's talking about right now. If you want to, you can pull up what I just sent you, and we can watch him while Bill's talking. There you go.
Okay.
Well, why keep people in the dark anymore? Let's give it to them.
Love this feature.
Yeah. I think we're going to probably start doing this a little more, letting people actually see what we're talking about. That's maybe not the favorite thing for guys that are just listening without the video, but this is a pretty obvious recruit here. He's got the size. That's the first thing you see in the stature. If you saw that,
Curtis.
Yeah, he took the shot right in the lower section. He still had the power to get it out of there. So this is a big arm. I mean, that's a flick. I mean, that's a flat throw for 30 yards down. So that's what Chip Kelly was probably originally drawn into. And then once you do the homework on what kind of a person he is, how does he process, and you get to meet him, I think that's probably what finishes the evaluation. But, yeah, this is a big, strong-arm guy who's just firing strikes. Because it's West Coast, you'll just use Caleb Williams comparisons and say, boy, with this size and arm strength, if he can process and, make some plays, you're going to see a lot of hype with this kid. That's a flat throw for 30 or 40 yards to a streak. That's not even a rainbow. So, yeah, there's a lot to like here. Nice, yeah. I think Chip Kelly and Ryan Day have the same needs at quarterback. They need someone who stands in that pocket and rips rockets. Where when the guy's open, you can rip it in there, and they're going to use you to make their receivers more valuable. And we've seen this before, and I know the Bucknutters are like, where's our scrambling quarterback that can take off and go run a 4-4? That's not what they're putting their priorities in. Putting a guy with great accuracy and timing and poise and the footwork and the delivery, that seems to be the qualities that rate a little higher as you watch Ohio State quarterbacks, especially this one from California.
As we still get some Michigan fans checking in here, I want to remind them of something. The opposite of love is not hate. It's indifference. And you don't seem to be indifferent. You still seem to be obsessed. So how's that working out for you? The questions are coming from Mrs. Sanchez. What schools are still recruiting Devin hard? How as a family do you shut it down? That's not a very nice question. Devin Sanchez will be a Buckeye. And, of course, everyone's lobbing calls in there. But if we can't pull that one off, we're in real trouble. Let me get to our second ad here, and then we will get rocking on all your questions. Do you wish you could go to Willy Wonka's Candy Factory? Well, since that's not exactly possible, Mark, let me introduce you to the online version of that. Nuts.com. In addition to an amazing selection of nuts, they have tons of classic candies like butterscotch, fudge, and licorice. At the grocery store, you can get pecans, but you don't want bourbon pecans, sweet and spicy pecans, pecan brittle, or butter toffee pecans. You can't get them there. If you're eager to try these, head to nuts.com. To see the hundreds of different varieties of nuts they offer: cashews, almonds, pecans, pistachios, dried mango, crystallized ginger, dates, jelly beans, jawbreakers, root beer barrels. The variety is vast at nuts.com. Kids going back to school, they're in school, and snacks will be flying out of the cabinets. Nuts.com is your one-stop shop for freshly roasted nuts, dried fruit, sweet pantry staples like specialty flours, and more. Their wide selection means there's something for everyone. Right now, Nuts.com is offering new customers a free gift with purchase and free shipping on orders of $29 or more at Nuts.com/Bucknuts. So go check out all the delicious options at Nuts.com/Bucknuts. You'll receive, good Lord, a free gift and free shipping when you spend $29. All right. Let's head to the top.
Can I answer one of the questions there, Dan?
You may. Tell me which one it is so I can put it up.
It is the one about how often do you feel like you need to call recruits or talk to recruits?
Okay. Often.
Yeah. I was trying to find it again right there, but here it is.
Sorry, roll.
To the dean, do you feel you need to talk to a recruit once a week or once every 2 weeks? How often? I would say that is on as needed basis. Just depends on the recruit. If there's a lot going on with the recruit and stuff happening, then I'll talk to him as much as need be. If there's not a whole lot going on, or if for instance, a kid's committed and he's really not looking at other schools at all, and it may not need to talk to him that often, but like Tavien Sinclair would fit into that category, but I just like to check and see what's going on every once in a while with him, as an example. Tell you an interesting story. Many years ago, I got a call one morning from someone at another site. They asked me, could you stop calling recruits so often? Because they didn't want to do that. I said, that's not going to happen. That actually happened. I said, if I need to call a recruit, I'm going to call that recruit. But I'll never forget that actually happened on a weekday morning and many years ago.
I'm sure we didn't whoop him too bad. All right. Before we go and do these questions, Mark, you got a chance to see future Buckeye Eli Lee in action. This is another example of how you should be watching the show live here on YouTube, Facebook, or the Twitter. And that way you get the video love that we're putting on here. Mark, walk us through what you got here.
Yeah, I'm not going to play the video yet. I'll let this screen sit for a second and I'll talk. I just tweeted something out last week where there's a lot of combines every weekend where you can go test yourself this time of year and get a 40 time. I think the next gen camp was at Spire this weekend. But that's not where the real dogs were at. Okay. Like, this is the time of the year where you work in the dark and you grind and you work on your craft and you get better. The season just ended. The basketball season just ending. Kids are not in their peak shape. They're not ready to run 40s, in my opinion. So there's places like Raw Talent, run by Mark Harris up in Cleveland, where the kids get together on Friday nights, Sunday nights, whenever the weekly session is, and they compete. They go through a nice little, county fair of drills, position specific, and they work on their craft. Eli Lee was there, and, I almost feel bad putting video out of him because he's working in the dark. He's working on his craft. They were talking leverage points. They were talking angles, and some of these one-on-ones, the guys catch the pass, and you're like, oh, he let that running back catch the pass. I wouldn't look at this video like that. It's just, this is him working out. This is him, how do I say it, getting some reps in against some smaller, faster guys. But I just introduced myself to Eli for a second, met his father. I can't say how nice he comes off in person. I actually asked him for a little favor, and boy, was he nice. But had no problem doing it for me. You can see there, just smothers. That running back wanted to do like a triple move on him. He was dying to beat the Ohio State recruit. So you had guys that want to take their shot at him. Everyone kind of wants to go against him at this place, and they were all kind of, is this kid the real deal? Now, my evaluation of that night is he's 6'3 plus. Like when I first looked at him, I did my double take. Bill and I have talked about this. You see a kid like this, of this caliber, 1 year from the last time you saw him, there's a difference. The shoulder, the way they were coming up in the neck, he's really turned out to be longer, and the muscular distribution is starting to look really impressive. But when I think of James Laurinaitis being his quarterback, his coach, wow, like to work with a kid who has all the talent you have, maybe even a little more, and you can tell him all the secrets, that's a nice combination. At the end of the day, he's going to be between the tackles, run stuffing guy, where he's going to come downhill. Watching him in the pass coverage there, he's working on it, but that's not what we brought him in for. You brought him in to be nasty and rub noses with guards, centers, tackles, and I think he's going to be pretty good at that. I can't say enough about how personable and nice he was. In my limited interaction, I didn't really chat with him just a couple times, joking between reps, but really comes off as a nice kid. And again, I'd like to see kids that are doing stuff like this, on a weekly basis where no one's watching. He had no idea. I shouldn't have been to their workout that night. He had no idea a Bucknuts reporter was going to be there kind of assessing him. So it's kind of neat to see. There were other kids there, and I have a feeling we're going to have stuff like this weekly in the next couple months with all these showcases, combines, and things coming up. So it's that time of the year.
Let me real quick. Eli Lee, Mark, talking about what a nice kid he is. Here's another true story. I went and saw Akron Hovind play near the end of the season, and it rained basically the whole game. But it really, when I went to interview Eli Lee after the game, it really started coming down pretty good. So, you're working with your phone to try to do a video recording with Eli and all that. And how when your phone gets wet, it's not as easy to get all the buttons and everything working. So my phone is pretty wet because it's raining like crazy, and I'm trying to get this. And Eli says to me, he says, he says, well, he has a towel there. He reaches down, dries his own hands off, and he says, let me help you with that. He takes the phone from me because his hands are dry, and he gets everything working because his hands were dry and everything, and it's going. A lot of kids would not do something like that. So we get partway through the interview, and again, it's raining pretty hard, and it's the phone is not getting a real clear picture and all because how hard. And a lot of kids don't want to take a lot of time to do this. Eli says, well, why don't we go ahead and go right over here? Well, not right over here, but there's a place not too far away undercover, and let's go ahead and do it over there, even though it's going to take a little time to walk over there. And we go over and do that. He takes the phone again with his towel, dries it all off. We get everything. Most kids would not have done that in the pouring rain on a Friday night after the game. Eli Lee took the time to do all that.
Yeah, he looks like he's a yes or no sir kid. I also like that he looks like he has the body type to take on guards who come through the lane. That is so important. And we just had a really good one to do that for several years in Tommy Eichenberg. I think we got another one coming here, which is great. Is this more of him? Mark, who's this?
No, there's a question in there from Ross Halford about the Hoban other linebacker, 2027 Braden Feaster.
Okay, there he is.
Yeah, this isn't a video of him. This is the same video. I think he was just pointing out that that's the 2.0 or the next version coming out of Hoban. He's a freshman, He was a running back. And he'll remind you of like a Ross Homan or going back away, Storm Klein or some of these running backs that just are bruisers. Yeah, I'm going way back with some of those.
Storm Klein, Licking County scientist.
Yep. So
great hair on Storm Klein.
That's what you're paying for. You're paying for the genius that pops in my head when I start talking about players. And if the genius that pops in my head, Storm Klein, we got to roll with it. But I'm trying to think of the two-way running back linebacker combination, and and maybe Ross Homan was the better example. But
Coldwater,
for like when I first saw the freshman playing varsity at Hoban, that film, I was like, whoa, what's this? And then you see it, like he's running like a man-child out there. I mean, he puts his shoulder downs and he thumps people and comes out the other side. Now there's some defensive film, and he's got some early MAC offers. That'll be a name that blows up by the time we get to 2027. So we have some great fans here that definitely are ahead of the curve, but not ahead of my curve. So
I would say also, if you're trying to get recruited by Ohio State, being on Hoban's team for the next few years is probably a good space to be. They will be there to see you and others very clearly. All right, let's go rapid fire here so we can get through these questions. Go ahead, Bill.
I was gonna say now I think about it, I didn't answer the second part of your question earlier. You mentioned Chip Kelly and James Laurinaitis. And we talked about Chip Kelly. I didn't finish that answer off. I just remembered you.
He's so good, Bill. We just didn't finish it.
You'd ask about guys that they're both recruiting, and in the case of we're talking about Eli Lee, so that reminded me. Linebacker wise, James Laurinaitis, he has been all over the country. He's really taken to recruiting. And he wasted no time in doing so. He's got a commitment. Of course, he'd already been committed for quite some time from Eli Lee. So that's a great start to James Laurinaitis' 2025 linebacker class. But then you've got Justin Hill, the jack position. You can call it a linebacker, call it a defensive end. It's a combination of the two. He will be visiting Ohio State in March. And I haven't put a crystal ball in for him to Ohio State. But if I was going to make a pick right now for Justin Hill, I'd go with Ohio State as my pick. Tarvos Alford is going to be at Ohio State March 22nd and 23rd from Florida. He will announce on March 30th. And right now I tend to like the Buckeyes a little bit, but I'm not 100% sold yet that that's going to be the pick. Elijah Melendez, Miami commitment. Ohio State likes him a lot, and he likes Ohio State a lot. I look for him to take an official visit to Ohio State, even though he's committed to Miami. Nasir Wyatt from Mater Dei High School, now home to Chris Henry, is another one Ohio State would love to get. Staying on the West Coast, Madden Faramo. from California is another one that Ohio State is a legitimate contender. He and his parents loved Ohio State. Talked to them when they were here this summer in June. You've got Elijah Barnes from Texas, Anthony Saka from Pennsylvania, Riley Pettijohn from Texas. All these guys are going to visit Ohio State in March or April, and most of them are coming from distance. So they're not going to waste their dime. They're not going to waste their time if they're not legitimately interested in Ohio State. So that's a handful. That's a handful of top names. And Laurinaitis fairly recently offered Jaden Harmon out of Georgia a scholarship as well. So those are some top names to keep in mind that Ohio State is legitimately in on.
I would really encourage anybody who has not done this yet to go back and watch the James Laurinaitis media availability from early last week. I'm telling you, I see a future head coach in James Laurinaitis. He's going to check a lot of boxes. He's an extremely good communicator. That's what I got out of it. Better than I expected. So I got high hopes for him. I really do.
I forgot Abdul Sanders, also from Mater Dei High School. He's visiting Ohio State in March as well. Ohio State has offered him too. So don't want to forget him.
And like you mentioned, Mater Dei is going to become, if there's going to be some pipeline set up cross country and some real investment and a lot of PVC piping, let's do it to Mater Dei with Chris Henry out there, and definitely a great start. All right, we want to get in as many questions as we can here, so let's go rapid fire. And then this is going to turn into the Mello and Mika show here, but here we go. Mello number 7, Dewey Land, Dorian, and Trey. I'm assuming Brew and McNutt. Bill.
If I had to pick a pick for Trey McNutt, if you'd asked me that back 2 months ago, I'd have said, I don't know. He's definitely, even though he's a legacy, not a done deal for Ohio State. But I think I mentioned this before. Jim Knowles went up there and a couple of the other Ohio State coaches in January and really impressed Trey McNutt. You know, I haven't put a pick in for him at this point, but if I had to make a pick, absolutely had to make a pick right now, I'd probably go with the Buckeyes for Trey McNutt. Dorian Brew, you know, that one, if he would have announced January 24th when he was originally going to, I loved Ohio State in that one, having crystal ball to Ohio State. Some other schools are working hard on him. I think I would, you know, I would say that Ohio State maybe has a slight lead still, but it's tightened up considerably, and he's not a done deal. I'll say that. Ohio State's got to keep recruiting him.
Yeah, obviously Devin Sanchez and Naeem Offord are the 2 highest rated corners in the class. Dorian Brew is still the number 16 overall player. And I do wonder if a guy that highly rated wants to be the 3rd rated guy in his class at his position. I'll just leave that there. Mark, can you handle this one? Tell me about Jaden Clark, offensive lineman out of Northmont. Is he a potential offer? We've talked about Cedric Works. Tell us about Jaden Clark.
Jaden was injured the night I went to see Northmont, and that was the night that Dorian Brew left for Texas. So, you know,
great night at Northmont.
great night at Northmont. Yeah, and
it's only a 3.5-hour drive.
Yeah,
right,
so thank you for Cedric Works, and they had younger players there. You know, so I did, you know, get to bite into a steak and watch a great recruit that night. But that was a shocking night when you show up at a game, and just to relive that moment. You know, you look around and you're looking on the field and he's not there, and you kind of see a player that's down at the end of the thing, not, hey, where's Dorian tonight? And they just give you a look of, okay, like maybe, you know, you're a sophomore, you don't even know who he is, and you go to the next guy and, hey, where's Dorian? And then you look at like maybe one of the administrators, a principal or an athlete, hey, where's Dorian? And then finally a coach sees me kind of, and he comes over and he goes, come here. He goes, 2:30 today, he goes, he checked out of school for good. And he just, and the weight of that hits you. Like, what just happened to this team, to him, you know, his recruiting. I mean, it's a big, So yeah, that was an interesting night. You don't always drive that far to come up empty. And I usually
one sec. He, of course, matriculated from Northmont High School to Conroe, Texas. It was not like he transferred to another GWalk school.
No.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting night. Jaden Clark on my board is in my rung just below the guys I've been mentioning. And if you're following the podcast, we've been talking about Tucker Caddis, maybe even a Nolan Davenport out of Massillon. But there's no clear guy that's going to jump up and maybe be offered out of nowhere. Jaden's in the conversation. You know, he's big, strong, powerful. His tape's pretty good from his junior year. I didn't see him in person that night, so I didn't get a good look at his body again. And being hypercritical for Ohio State guys, that's where because sophomore, he looked a little heavy. And lineman heavy is not bad. We call that power sometimes. And I'm thinking he may have been a guard more than a tackle at that time. So that would decrease his value because tackles have more value. But that's where he is. Maybe a top 5 or 8 offensive lineman in Ohio. Could raise up the boards. So, yeah, Jaden Clark's a name to pencil in there.
Larry Ventresco asks, Bill, I read where Gus Cordova got in some kind of trouble in the past. Are the Buckeyes seriously recruiting him? We don't need to go into too much detail. Good gracious. Detail there, Bill. But you could tell us who Gus Cordova is and what his current recruiting status is with Ohio State. That'd be wonderful if I could speak English.
He is a defensive lineman out of Texas. Very talented player, has scholarship offers from schools all over the country. Does not have an offer from Ohio State at this point. He is scheduled to visit Ohio State March 18th. And he is he's looking forward to seeing Ohio State. He feels like he is going to get an offer from Ohio State, but we'll see. You know, again, he's a guy that there is interest in, and he's certainly interested. He is certainly interested in Ohio State, but right now Ohio State has not offered him.
There's some jokes. People have jokes. John Gorby asks, what does Jeff Overton bring to the table as a running back Ohio State is looking at? This is a special place in my heart because I covered Jeff Overton in the state championship against Oakton High School, and he was an option quarterback, and it was his dad. He was a star, and his son is a star. Very, very fast and elusive. Bill, this looks to me like more your scat back type. Is that fair?
Yeah, and he's also more of your underrated kid, under the radar kid. This is a kid Ohio State likes.
Just send you the video, Dan.
Okay.
He has got an official visit.
Maximize it.
Yeah. He's already got an official visit set to Ohio State. And they're not setting up official visits this far out with kids they don't like a lot. I think in the end, it'll probably come down to Ohio State, one of the Virginia schools. He's a Virginia kid, Virginia Tech, Ohio State, maybe Clemson. Those are the top schools right now for him. And he's a kid I think you're going to continue to see blow up. If you watch his video, he's fast. I mean, he's a little bit along the lines of a Marquise Davis. But I think Marquise Davis, I'd say, is a little more power than Overton. But Overton's a really good player, outstanding speed, and a guy that Ohio State has high on the board.
I think if you're looking at Overton and you want to say what's the best case scenario, and it's a good scenario, but it'd be like your Jahmyr Gibbs type. Very impressive. And I will have a special place in my heart for him, of course, because I covered his dad like 30 years ago. I figured it out. I went and read the article, by the way. It's so well written.
It's funny you said his dad was playing quarterback because, as you said, that he was taking snaps as a Wildcat quarterback.
Yeah, that's what his dad was.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, it's funny, and it runs in the family. But
Well,
Bill put out those dangerous words, scat back, and that's almost like saying you're a game manager at quarterback, right? Yeah, like scat back. I love how it implies speed, burst, quickness, explosion, that type of stuff. But the negative connotation comes you're in a smaller package and you can't handle all 3 downs. So Ohio State usually doesn't bring in scat back. Like Travion Henderson may be a scat back in the NFL.
right.
For us, he's a 3-down back that we don't want to take off the field. The scat back stuff, there are those explosive qualities. And if you're watching that tape, he's still breaking away for touchdown runs. It hasn't ended.
Yeah. Also, I'm old, like has been come up several times. Scat back, I don't view it as a negative term. I view it as almost like if there's a term slot running back, versatile weapon in the game, offensive game. I think there's actually more. When you have Chip Kelly calling plays, you want as much diverse skill as you can, and I could see them doing a great job getting him involved. All right.
5'10", 187. That's the height and weight on him. So he could get to 200 pounds. It's not,
Definitely.
to whatever. And it's
Easily.
funny, scat back game manager. I just saw Cam Newton where he's been going around calling everybody game managers. And he means it as a compliment. He keeps saying that's a compliment. But, it's almost a backhanded compliment.
It's a passive-aggressive compliment.
Yeah, I don't want to.
He doesn't refer to himself as a game manager.
There you go. That's what he's kind of getting at. But I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. So these terms we throw out, I don't mean to say, hey, Bill, that was a bad term or I'm, using that. But I just want to.
I'm not sure I used that term.
Yeah, like it doesn't offend. It's not an offending term, but when I hear it sometimes, I'm like, I better clear that up because some people will take that as the backhanded compliment. But
Sure.
And it's really not because, Dan, I think your definition of it is better. You're a hybrid of a receiver.
Yeah.
You can do more in the passing game.
You're a weapon.
Our coaches just have to be smart enough to use you right.
Right.
And now you're, the right animal in the right system.
There was a question asked of Ms. Sanchez earlier. Is Devin Sanchez still being recruited? They are still in contact every day.
Yeah.
That's a futile effort. But I will say there are certain prospects that even if you tell them to stop calling, they'll be like, oh, I got a wrong number. It's you again. Oh, it's accidental. He's that good. So that's
I think the bag of cash is going to get bigger and bigger. The closer you get and the more you get to signing day, those phone calls are going to call, hey, I know we called you a couple weeks ago and this is what we told you, but now we're going to tell you this and that amount's going to change. And we'll see how that plays out. And not just for Sanchez. I think that's going to be the new MO for all recruits of higher ilk.
All right. Let's do one more question. Storm Klein. I got to catch up here. One more question, then we got to get out of here. Otherwise, we're going to go into James Laurinaitis has a degree in communication, so why are you surprised he's a good communicator? Dude, I have a degree in communications. That's why. Give me a break.
Another one of those, you know what? It's just like the game manager or scat back thing. You hear tough middle linebacker, and you don't think brain surgeon and communicator.
No.
NFL linebackers, the next word out of your mouth isn't astute student. It's tough, mean, it's nasty. It's almost criminal. I mean, if you said middle linebacker at word association game, not communicator. So maybe I'll just defend you a little bit, Bill, there. When you see him, he does come off more.
I think I said it.
Yeah.
And what I meant was sitting in front of the media, he's very natural and authentic. He's not trying to say what you want to hear, and yet he's very clear on what he was saying. You could be the smartest communicator ever, and some people choke in front of the media or their ego gets involved and they get a little fired up. He was not intimidated whatsoever by being there. He's done it a bunch. So we shall see. All right. I think we're going to call it. Let's see if I can. Okay. Jermaine Runnels asks. Also, I'm hearing Jordan Davidson is a running back in Ohio State target. He's a running back from California. Are you mistaken? You're not mistaken, Bill. Talk about Jordan Davidson to finish the show here. I actually took a look at him last night. He's kind of what I want in a running back. His body type, I guess he's about, 5'10", 205 and can fly. Elusive and tough, every down back type. Your thoughts on Jordan Davidson, who he is, where he goes, and the chances he ends up at Ohio State as we finish up the show here.
He's another one of those modern day guys. That is a good thing now when it used to be, people used to associate modern day with USC.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right now, you tend to associate modern day with Ohio State as well, too. With Chris Henry out there now with, we've talked about 3, 4, maybe 5 guys on this podcast alone at modern day that Ohio State is recruiting hard. And Jordan Davidson is one of them. He is the number 2 running back in the country. He is going to make a 4-day trip to Ohio, March 27th to April 1st. Again, this is on his own dime. Family are coming. There's interest there, folks, a lot of interest. And I think right now the two leading schools would not necessarily be USC and for Davidson. I think right now I could make a case that the two leading schools for him might be Ohio State and Texas. I don't count out USC. That's in his backyard. But Ohio State is absolutely a real player for Davidson. He has let me know on more than one occasion his interest is very legitimate in Ohio State.
You can see him on tape here in that classic. There's not many high schools that you know immediately, and Mater Dei is one of them with their classic red and the white stripes, almost like a white Rams uniform, a red Rams uniform. And boy, do they play a great schedule too. As you know, this looks like Bishop Gorman. The last one was Saddleback. So they travel, they play a great schedule, and they are loaded. We will be all over Mater Dei. Maybe we'll send out Bill and the Grand Poobah to California. Not at all. We digress, and we are done. We appreciate these guys stopping by. We'll be back on Thursday with these two. That should give you plenty of time to gather up some questions. Have a good one.